When I think about high school, I don't remember the exams, or the noise of the cafeteria, or even the long lectures that used to make me stare at the clock. What I remember most is the sound of rain against the library windows, the smell of old paper, and the way sunlight looked on Noah's hair. Back then, I was just a quiet kid sitting by the window, always half inside my head. I liked drawing in the margins of my notebooks, reading books no one else cared about, and spending lunch breaks somewhere silent. I never wanted to stand out, and for most of my life, I didn't. Until the day Noah Carter walked into class. It was early autumn. The kind of morning when the air feels sharp and clean, and the sky is pale like glass. Our teacher introduced him with a smile, and when he said his name, his voice carried softly, like he wasn't trying too hard but people would listen anyway. He had brown hair that caught the light and eyes that seemed to hold more than one color, sometimes blue, sometimes green, sometimes something in between. He sat down right next to me, turned his head, and smiled. "Hi," he said. And somehow, that one word stayed in my mind longer than anything else that day. I wasn't good at talking to new people. Usually, I froze up, mumbled something awkward, or pretended to be busy. But with Noah, it felt different. There was something about his voice, gentle but steady, that made you want to answer. "Hey," I managed to say. He grinned, and for a second, I thought maybe the air in the room changed. Maybe it got warmer. Maybe I just imagined it. Over the next few weeks, I started noticing things about him. How he always carried more books than he needed. How he stayed behind after class to ask the teacher questions no one else thought of. How he'd stop in the hallway to help someone pick up dropped papers, or hold the door open for a stranger without thinking twice. He wasn't trying to be perfect. He just was. Sometimes, I'd catch myself watching him instead of paying attention in class. The way he pushed his hair back when he was concentrating. The way his eyebrows furrowed when he didn't understand something right away. And when he laughed, God, when he laughed, it sounded like sunlight through glass. I didn't even know that made sense until I heard it. One rainy afternoon, I was in the library looking for a copy of Great Expectations. It was on the top shelf, just out of reach. I stretched, balanced on my toes, and nearly lost my footing when a hand reached past me and pulled it down easily. "Here," said Noah, handing me the book. I turned around so fast I almost dropped it. "Thanks," I said, my voice too quiet. He smiled. "You always come here alone?" "Yeah," I admitted. "It's quieter." "Yeah," he said. "I like that too." From that day on, we started seeing each other in the library more often. Sometimes we'd study together. Sometimes we'd just sit in silence, both reading, occasionally glancing up and catching each other's eyes. He'd smile whenever that happened. Not teasing, not mocking, just soft, like he understood something I didn't have the courage to say. Then came the day I'll never forget. It was after gym class. The locker room was nearly empty when two guys from the basketball team cornered me. "Hey, Elliot," one of them said. "You like watching us change or something?" I froze. The other guy laughed. "Yeah, people are saying you've got a thing for boys." "That true?" I tried to walk past them, but one of them shoved me lightly, just enough to make my bag fall. "Say something," he sneered. Before I could open my mouth, the door swung open. Noah stood there, eyes darker than I'd ever seen. "What the hell are you doing?" he asked, voice low but sharp enough to cut through the noise. The boys turned, startled. "Relax, man, we're just..." "Leave," Noah said. "Now." They exchanged a look, muttered something under their breath, and walked out. When they were gone, Noah knelt down, picked up my bag, and handed it to me. His hand brushed mine for a second, and I could feel my heart trying to break out of my chest. "You okay?" he asked softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "They're idiots," he said. "Don't let them make you feel small." I swallowed. "Thanks." He smiled faintly. "You don't have to thank me for doing what's right." After that, things changed a little. We started sitting together at lunch. He'd wave at me in the hallway, ask about my day, share his notes when I looked tired. Sometimes, we'd walk home the same way, talking about nothing and everything, music, dreams, the future. He wanted to study architecture. I wanted to write stories. You will, he told me one evening as we crossed the small bridge near the park. You'll write things that make people feel less alone. Why do you think that? I asked. He shrugged, smiling. Because you make me feel that way. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept hearing his words, over and over, until they felt like they were stitched into my heartbeat. But nothing beautiful lasts untouched. Winter came, and with it, something I didn't expect. I saw them together one morning, Noah and Lydia. She was the kind of girl who looked like she belonged in a painting. Blonde hair, green eyes, the kind of smile that made everyone else smile too. She was laughing at something he said, and he was looking at her the way I used to look at him. Later that day, during lunch, someone mentioned they were dating. Everyone seemed happy about it. They look perfect together, someone said. I laughed along, pretending it didn't hurt. Pretending I hadn't built an entire secret world around the sound of his voice. He told me a few days later, as if I didn't already know. Hey, he said, smiling that same smile that used to undo me. So, Lydia and I, well, we're kind of together now. I forced a grin. That's great. She's really nice. He studied my face for a moment, like he knew something was off. You sure you're okay? Yeah, I said. Why wouldn't I be? He didn't press. He never did. That was one of the things I both loved and hated about him. After that, I tried to pull away a little. I told myself it was better that way. But he didn't seem to notice, or maybe he did, and just didn't know what to do about it. We still sat next to each other in class. He still lent me his notes, still asked about my day. But something invisible had changed. When he smiled at me, it didn't reach his eyes anymore. Or maybe it was mine that stopped shining back. One evening in the library, he asked quietly, Elliot, are we okay? I looked up from my book, my throat dry. Yeah. Why wouldn't we be? He hesitated, then nodded slowly. Good. I just don't want things to get weird between us. Weird? I repeated. Yeah, you know, you're my best friend. Best friend. I smiled. Right. Best friend. And just like that, I realized how deep the line between us really was. The months passed. He and Lydia became the golden couple everyone adored. He was still kind, still gentle, still Noah, but no longer mine, even in silence. Sometimes I catch him glancing at me during class, his eyes soft, like he wanted to say something. But he never did. And I didn't ask. Graduation came with sunlight and the smell of fresh-cut grass. He won an award for academic excellence. I clapped the loudest, because that's what friends do. After the ceremony, we met by the old oak tree near the back field. He was holding his cap in one hand, his tie slightly loosened. Can you believe it's over? He said. Feels weird, I answered. Like we're leaving a whole life behind. He nodded. Where are you going next? Probably college in the city, I said. You? Same. He smiled. We might even run into each other. Maybe, I said, even though I knew I wouldn't let that happen. He was quiet for a moment. Then he looked at me, really looked at me, the way he used to in the library, and said, You're a good person, Elliot. You know that, right? I didn't. But I nodded anyway. I hope you find someone who sees you the way you deserve to be seen, he said. I wanted to tell him I already had. But instead, I just said, Thank you, Noah. For everything. He smiled one last time, soft and full of something I couldn't name. Then Lydia called his name from across the field, and he turned, waving back. I watched him walk away, sunlight falling across his shoulders, until he disappeared into the crowd. That was the last time I saw him. Years passed. I moved to another city. Went to college. Got a job. Met people. Lost some. But sometimes, on rainy afternoons, I find myself standing in front of a bookstore window, watching the drops slide down the glass, and I remember. I remember the sound of Noah's laugh. The way he stood up for me. The way his eyes softened when he said my name. People talk about first love like it's supposed to be wild and unforgettable. Mine wasn't wild. It was quiet. Gentle. The kind of love that never asked for anything, and maybe that's why it stayed pure. Noah once told me he wanted to build things that lasted. I guess, in a way, he did, because the memory of him has never faded. Sometimes I wonder if he ever thinks of me. If he remembers the quiet boy who sat beside him, who smiled too much and said too little. Maybe he doesn't. Maybe that's for the best. Still, in another life, I hope I'd have the courage to tell him that the smallest things he did, passing me a book, standing up for me, smiling on a rainy day, they were enough to change everything. Because once, in a small town high school, under the quiet light of an ordinary afternoon, I loved someone named Noah Carter. And that, I think, will always be enough.